Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. Today's episode is Bleach Soul Society The Rescue Arc, episode 51, Morning of the Sentence. Episode in a nutshell is a brief reminder of what happens in the episode. So in this episode, it starts with Rukia being removed from her cell in the tower, presumably to escort her to the execution. We then see some of the other captains throughout the episode getting ready and having conversations surrounding the upcoming execution. Kenpachi is with Inoue, Ikaku, Kumichika, and Yatru, I think are their names. And they're going to the prison where they break out Ganju, Ishida, and Sato. Then they, of course, start getting lost as they're running around. We then have them being confronted by Tosin, Komamura, Aiba, and History? Oh my gosh. Sorry, Hisagi, who is their lieutenants. Kenpachi takes on Tosin and Komamura, his fellow captains, while Ikaku and Yumichika take on Aiba and Hisagi. Anyways, their fights begin, and then we move on to Renji, who has finished his Bankai training and is heading to the surface. And as he's on his way out, he asks Yoruichi if Ichigo will be able to actually achieve Bankai by the end of the day. And Yoruichi says that she believes in Ichigo, as Ichigo continues his training against Zangetsu. And that is what happens in this episode. So now that we've been reminded about what happened in the episode, we'll rank the episode. As always, we'll rank on our mostly objective ranking, followed by the personal ranking. So first off, we have a single arc supporting character introduction, and this is in the introduction of Hisana Kuchiki. Or I'm not even sure this counts as an introduction, as she is a portrait in an altar that Byakuya is looking at before he leaves. I assume we're going to get more information because she's a duplicate of Rukia. And I'm not sure if that's coming in this arc or in another one, but because it is a very minor character that is only going to be part of like a backstory because she's already passed away, I did decide that single arc supporting character works, because even if she is expanded upon in another arc, like I said, she's a very minor background character, so 1 point I think is fair either way. Then we have the multi-arc supporting character growth, which is Tosin, who reveals a new form for his Zanpakuto, and that is Suzumushi Nishiki Benehiko, which essentially is the second form or second attack of his Zanpakuto Shikai, or first release. And then Komamura, who is the beast person, his his Zanpakuto name is revealed, and its first release, its Shikai, is Tenken. Then, and those are each worth 3 points for the tax. And then we have our multi-arc main character development, which is the boys being rescued from the prison. And by boys, I do mean Ganju, Ishida, and Sato. And because they are, or at least Ishida and Sato are both high schoolers, I am counting them as boys rather than men. So the boys are rescued from prison by Kenpachi. And that brings us to 11 points. which is over 10. Therefore, this is a 10 out of 10 episode objectively. And that brings our mostly objective ranking so far to in first, Flash Goddess Yoruichi Dances. Oh, when more than one episode has the same score, they are just ranked in episode order on our mostly objective ranking. Second place, The Despicable Shinigami. Ishida, The Utmost Limits of Power. Morning of the Sentence is in fourth place, that's this episode. Then Hitsugaya Howls, Overcome Your Limits, The Avengers, Rukia's Nightmare, Authentic Records, School of Shinigami, and then The Reviving Lion is currently in 10th place, last place. Then we have the personal ranking. And honestly, it is an episode that means good things are coming. So I did enjoy it for that reason. However, it flashed very briefly to a lot of different characters to like kind of check in on where everyone was at in this upcoming execution, and that part was a bit boring. I'm not going to lie about that. However, it did come up with one of my favorite lines so far in the series, which was Nanao basically saying to her captain that she is going to be several steps behind him so as not to get into trouble, but will follow him. And I thought that was amazing and great. So no matter what he decides, she's gonna follow him, but from behind so she doesn't get in trouble. Amazing sentiment. Love that line. Obviously, we're getting hints of Ichigo. Obviously, Renji has succeeded, so we know that's coming. Ichigo is working on it, so that's still up in the air, building some tension and expectation. Then we have the start of the fight between Kenpachi and two captains, which he does end up with some blades in his shoulders by the end of this episode, and they are both shocked that he took both of their attacks without much damage besides the blades in his shoulders, which don't seem to bother him at all because he's still super calm and telling them that they're not even going to be able to relieve his drowsiness. Amazing. Obviously, Ikaku and Yumachika, they both left with the other lieutenants, like with the two lieutenants, but their fights haven't started on screen. They've just claimed their opponents so far. So they've moved on. Obviously, Inoue, Ishida, Shadow, and Ganju, they're running to find Ichigo. Ichigo, still training. But I do like that we got an update, especially on some characters that we haven't seen before and some that are, more main characters, the ones that Ichigo came with. So I gave it a 7. But it's only a 7 because some parts are boring and not a lot has already happened. But that now brings our personal ranking to, in first, Ishida, The Utmost Limits of Power, The Despicable Shinigami, The Reviving Lion. This episode comes in fourth place, Morning of the Sentence, Hitsugaya Howls, Flash Goddess Yoruichi Dances, The Avengers, Authentic Records, School of Shinigami, Rukia's Nightmare, and Overcome Your Limits, and of course this episode was fourth place. And that brings us to the series ranking so far. On the mostly objective side, Agent of the Shinigami arc is in first place, and it's actually in first place on both the mostly objective and personal ranking. So on both lists as well, second place goes to Soul Society, the sneak entry arc. On our mostly objective, Soul Society, the rescue arc currently has 81 out of 220. And on the personal side has 64 out of a possible 220. But with that, we have now rewatched and ranked Bleach Soul Society, The Rescue Arc, episode 51, Morning of the Sentence. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.